Hey everybody, how's it going? Can you all hear me okay? Do do. Hey Nikki. Hey Gabriel. How is everybody? Hey Rob. Just going to wait for a few more people to tune in. So yeah, the Heathrow Airport you were talking about, Simon. I saw that actually today. Um, they've been trying to put that that airstrip there, that runway, whatever it's called, there for ever since I can remember, to be quite honest. And it looks like they've finally got their way. I believe Boris Johnson was on about a few years ago. He was going to expand that smaller airport. I forgot what it's called now. Is it Stanway or something like that? I forgot what the small airport was. But they've got their wish, as they always will. I'm going to be talking about something that I think needs way more exposure tonight than it's actually getting. Um, because one of the things that I missed my last one, TJ Yates. Yeah, well, I'm going to be going live more often now because what I've noticed is live streams for some reason get a lot more coverage than if you just put your videos out. So I should be able to talk about things and it not get demonetized and deranked in their algorithm. So yeah, Feinstein must go away. I do agree with you, Gabriel. The California primaries are today, and I'm hoping that Alison Hartson will win or get into the top 2 in California. But I've got a horrible feeling she's going to come 4th or 5th. You heard that there first. But yeah, Alison Hartson is the best candidate in that race without a doubt. I've got a horrible feeling she's going to come 4th or 5th though, and in a progressive state like California, that would be bad. So I'm hoping that I'm wrong here, and she's going to be in the top 2. If she is, that's going to be a huge, huge win because she will beat Dianne Feinstein, I am sure. I would have made it to the last one, but YouTube didn't notify me of it, even though I'm subscribed. Yeah, you've got to click that bell. Apparently, if you're in America now, you've got to click the bell, and you've got to select something else. They're making it more difficult to actually get a notification from a channel than going to buy something on Amazon. So yeah, what I want to talk to you all about today, I am going to just get things set up here. Okay, so what I'm going to talk to you about is this. Right, I'm not going to talk about Roseanne, so don't anybody flip out. So this is the cable news coverage of the reported 4,600 Hurricane Maria deaths in Puerto Rico versus Roseanne Barr's racist tweet and cancelled TV show. Now, there's something seriously wrong there. You just look at it. I mean, there's something seriously wrong, and the reason is the news media, and this is in America. This is the same over here. They're not actually going to give you what is required. They're not actually going to give you the facts. They're not going to give you the important news. They're basically there, as I said in the video the other day, to just dangle some shiny keys and say, look over here. Don't look at the important things. And they've got a serious sensationalism bias, anything like Roseanne. And it didn't stop. If I just show you this, on Friday, so this was on Friday, this was a big story, Samantha Bee, because she did a bad thing. She tried to reason with Ivanka Trump. It wasn't the C word that was the bad thing in there. The bad thing was her trying to reason with an unreasonable person. And the strange thing is, what she actually said in that, what they took offense to the C word that was said, but that wasn't really the bad thing. The bad thing was, if you actually listen to the sketch, she was basically saying, Ivanka Trump, go and screw your dad. That's basically what she was saying, to try and get him to stop ripping these children away from women at the border. But yeah, that was Friday, and this is just scrolling down. This is the Google feed for the news, and it's really good for the news. The Google feed is, but you can see there you got Time, you got Bustle, Denver Chronicle, HuffPost, all the usual people are there. You got CBS News, The Hill are there. Obviously, The Hill I did in my video the other day, 43 articles in 36 hours that I did on Roseanne, and that's The Hill. The Hill, correct me if I'm wrong, is supposed to be a political news agency, but if you just look, this is all the articles on Samantha Bee. Now, the trouble is with all this going on, this has happened since Friday. The trouble is this came out on June the 1st, and I believe June the 1st was Friday. Yeah, it came out at the same time. Saudi-led coalition assault on Yemen port would be a disaster. Now, I want to talk about this more because I don't think Yemen is getting enough exposure, especially in the media. And I don't think people realise just how strong an anti-war sentiment there is out there, not just in the US, but also the UK as well. So I'm going to read a bit of this article, so I hope you'll forgive me. It says, as forces of the Saudi-led military coalition close in on the main Yemeni port city of Hodeidah, aid agencies fear a major battle that was also shut down a vital lifeline for millions of hungry civilians. Now, Hodeidah was actually shut down. The port was in November. Nothing was going in and nothing was going out. And it's being reopened in December. Now, what they're actually talking about here is there are massive forces. There's actually 400,000 here. Look at this. Troops from the United Arab Emirates and Yemeni governments are believed to lead coalition forces massing south of the city of 400,000 people, another aid official said. So this is going to be a gigantic war. That's what it's heading to. And it's going to close this port off. Now, why is this port important? Here's the map. So here's Yemen. There's Saudi Arabia above it. Now here's Oman. Now, the reason why I'm highlighting Oman is Oman over the last 3 years is a country that the UK has sold the most weapons to. 1.4 billion, I believe it was last year, we sold in weapons to Oman. Saudi Arabia was second, and that was 1.1 billion. You got Israel up here. There's the West Bank in Israel, and there's the Gaza Strip. So the West Bank, it doesn't really show the whole picture because here you've got little settlements dotted all over the place, which is where the Palestinians are living. So if somebody here lives in Nablus, I'm just taking this as an example, it might not be true, and his mate or his dad lives, 2 miles east, that way's east, 2 miles east, he'll have to go up here to a checkpoint, 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 and then down to his. So that's the sort of crap that's going on in Israel. I thought you'd just point that out. So this port here, this is the port that they're talking about. We're just zooming on the map because you can see there's an airport there as well. There's the international airport, and this is the giant port. Now, if you go back to this article, you can see here, obviously, this strait is going to be a huge waterway for oil transportation. So you can see the key strategic advantage of this port. If we go back to this, it actually says here, the coalition ground forces are now at the doorstep of the heavily fortified, heavily mined port city. Jan Egeland, Secretary General of the Norwegian Refugee Council, told Reuters, thousands of civilians are fleeing from the outskirts of Hodeidah, which is now a battle zone. We cannot have war in Hodeidah. It would be like war in Rotterdam or Antwerp. These are comparable cities in Europe. Now, I've done some work in the past with imports and exports when I was actually working in the oil and gas industry. And Rotterdam is massive. So if it's that size port, and what he's saying is true, this is going to be huge. Now, the reason why, let's just go back to the article. The reason why I'm highlighting this is last week, the United Nations Aid Chief, Mark Lowcock, urged the Saudi-led coalition that controls Yemen's ports to expedite food and fuel imports. He warned that a further 10 million Yemenis could face starvation by the year end, in addition to 8.4 million already severely short of food in the world's worst humanitarian crisis. So this, I'm sure my viewers will agree with me, is a huge story. I mean, this is huge. This is Yemen, remember. I'll go through some of the atrocities that they've been seeing over the last few years in a bit. But the reason I picked up that, or I alluded to this before, look at all this is just, you know, the news coverage. It's still going on now. The fact that Samantha Bee said the C word. The thing is, if you put in Hodeidah into Google News, there's not much really there. Not much at all. You can see Reuters are talking about it, the National, a load of the Independent. This is why I say the Independent are the best media outlet in the UK. So the Independent writes about it, but Google hasn't picked up anybody from the Daily Mail, the Sun, MSNBC, CNN, Fox, anything like that. You can see all these are just smaller news. Now, you could say, okay, Hodeidah, maybe that's not in the title. It's not. They search for it in the articles. But if you just go to Yemen, just put in Yemen into the search, you see the Washington Post have talked about it. Reuters have obviously talked about it. But again, no CNN, no Fox, no MSNBC, no The Sun, no Daily Mail, Independent, The Guardian. Oh, there's a CNN. We finally found one. It's got absolutely nothing to do with the Hodeidah port. So they're not even talking about it. They're not even talking about it. And this is why I want to talk about it, because I've been doing some research over the last few days on it. And the way this all started and why it all started in Yemen is unsurprising, shall we say. So let's go back to this article. I want to read quite a bit of this article. I hope you'll forgive me. So, looming battle. Hodeidah, the so-called big battle, has been looming now for 18 months with ups and downs. Robert Mardini, Middle East Regional Director of the International Committee of the Red Cross, told Reuters. It's a densely populated area where any military scenario will risk coming at a huge human cost. So this does not look good. Despite all the measures put in place by the coalition to improve imports, what is reaching Hodeidah is very short of the needs. Now, why is this important? Well, it's important because of this. And this is an article from last year. So it said experts predict fastest spreading cholera epidemic since records began, with affect at least 1 million people by the turn of the year. Now, this is not this year. This was 2017. It is now well over 1 million cases of cholera in Yemen. Well over 1 million cases. And obviously with cholera and diseases like that, the people that it affects most are the weak and the young. So the majority of the people who contract cholera are children. Just read you a bit of this. The cholera epidemic in Yemen has become the largest and fastest spreading outbreak of the disease in modern history, with 1 million cases expected by the end of the year and at least 600,000 children likely to be affected. Like I say, this was last year, so this is well above these figures I'm quoting you here now. The World Health Organization has reported more than 815,000 suspected cases of the disease in Yemen and 2,156 deaths. And this was October. We're now, what, 9 months on? How many is it now? It's a humanitarian crisis over there. That's what it is now. Save the Children has warned that at the current rate of infection, the number of cases will reach 7 figures before the turn of the year. They have, 60% of which will be among young children. In July, the International Committee of the Red Cross predicted there would be 600,000 suspected cholera cases in the country by the end of the year. So what is going on over there at the moment is a human rights violation. Why is it a human rights violation? Well, as I've said before, the UK and the US are supporting this war. We are fueling their planes as they come back from their bombing missions. We are supporting their supply lines. We're obviously selling them the weapons in the billions. We'll come to that in a minute. And we're also providing the intelligence for them and as to which targets to hit. That's the US and the UK's involvement in it. And as one senator, I'm actually not sure whether this is a senator or congressman, Chris Murphy, we sell them the planes and the bombs, we provide intel and help them seek the targets, we refuel their planes mid-attack. There is a US imprint on every civilian death in Yemen. I would say a UK imprint as well, because that, even though that's America he's talking about there, it applies to the UK as well. And nothing shows the hypocrisy more This was Vice around the same time last year. An international development minister was asked 10 times if Britain will stop selling weapons to Saudi Arabia, but never really answered. Well, is that surprising? This, by the way, is how much we've sold Israel from the UK in the last 3 years, 328 million in arms. Saudi Arabia last year, 1.1 billion. 1.1 billion in arms. And over the last 3 years, 4.7 billion. That's just from the UK alone. So we are complicit in this war. There's no two ways about it. We are complicit. We are fully behind this. Fully behind all that's happening with the humanitarian crisis going on. Now, the reason that Hodeidah is so important is because of the amount of supplies it gets through there, that go through there for the population. Yemen traditionally imports 90% of its food, mainly through Hodeidah, where UN inspectors check ships to ensure they do not carry any weapons. Now, Hodeidah, that's where most of the imports are coming, and 80% of all of the imports that come through that port are either food or medicinal. And now looks like there's going to be a huge battle there. And at the very least, siege warfare is going to continue. And they're literally just trying to squeeze the country. So this is bad. Very, very bad. Okay, so this was a good article actually by The Guardian. I'll give them credit on this. This was a good article. This was back in October they wrote it. But the question is, why are we there? This is why I always keep asking this. Why are we doing this? Why are we supporting this? What caused all of this conflict? Why are all these people dying? Why? And this article, again from The Guardian, and this was this month, or last month rather. So why did Saudi Arabia enter the war? In March 2015, the Saudi-led coalition began bombing the Houthi rebels who had forced Yemen's president, Abd Rabu Mansur Hadi, I shall call him Hadi from now on, because these other names are too hard to pronounce, into exile. This week's visit to the UK by Mohammed bin Salman, this happened last month, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, has refocused attention on the conflict. So that's when they came in, March 2015. Why are they attacking them? Saudi Arabia regards the Houthis as Iranian proxies and intervened to check their advance. The Saudi air war is in support of the forces loyal to Hadi, who aim to retake the capital from the Houthis. So, Saudi-led coalition began bombing the Houthi rebels who had forced Yemen's president, Hadi, into exile. So let's have a look at him. I apologise about using Wikipedia, but it's just easier. I'm sure all of this can be verified. But let's look at the history of Yemen and find out what happened to cause this war. Because the Guardian article there, it just says, well, it's the Houthi rebels and they're propped up by Iran. That's basically their explanation on it. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but that's their explanation. That's what they give in those top two paragraphs. So let's go. Well, he came into power in September 2011. Hold on a minute, wait a minute. They didn't start bombing until March 2015. So what happened? Well, he came in at 2011 because Hadi was the acting president of Yemen, while the previous president, Saleh, was undergoing medical treatment in Saudi Arabia following an attack on the presidential palace during the 2011 Yemeni uprising. Okay, so he came into power after the previous president was ousted during the Yemeni uprising. So what is the Yemeni uprising? Well, the Yemeni uprising is also known as the Arab Spring. So that's what happened. The Arab Spring happened and they ousted the president. And this guy, no, he ousted him. That was the previous president. And this guy came in, Hadi. So what did he promise? After Saleh moved, so the previous president moved into a non-acting role, pending a presidential election, in return for immunity and prosecution. So what he said was basically, okay, I'll give up my title as king or whatever it was, and then you come in, have an election, and as long as you don't kill me, everything's going to be fine. That's basically what he said. That's what I'm reading into that. Hadi was expected to form a national unity government and also called for early presidential elections within 90 days. That's what he was expected to do in 2011, while Saleh continued to serve as president in name only while he was in Saudi Arabia. Hadi was chosen as president for a 2-year transitional period on 2012 in an election in which he was the only candidate. Okay. Well, was that what the uprising was all about? Really? Is that what they wanted? Some other puppet to come in and take over? I don't think what it was it? Because if I go Control F, I bet you if I search for the word democratic in this, look at that. It comes up. In early July, the government, this was back in 2011 they're talking about, in early July, the government rejected the opposition's demands, including the formation of a transitional council with the goal of formally transferring power from the current administration to a caretaker government intended to oversee Yemen's first ever democratic elections. So what they actually wanted was democracy. That's what they were. That's what they overpowered Saleh for. That's where it all came from. And that's the people that we're fighting. People who want democracy. What happened to that seed of democracy, George Bush? Eh? He goes on. Okay, so in response, factions of the opposition announced the formation of their own 17-member transitional court on 16th of July through the joint meeting parties that have functioned as an umbrella for many of the Yemeni opposition groups during the uprising, said the council did not represent them and did not match their plan for the country. Okay, so this uprising, it was obviously not well coordinated. You will see the Arab Spring here. Made in the USA. Oh, really? So, America are behind this. It's not like them to behind coups and uprisings and all that sort of thing. Oh, wait a minute, they did it around that time with they did it around that time with Libya, didn't they? Let's go up and check. The Yemeni Revolution, initially named the Yemeni Uprising, followed the initial stages of the Tunisian Revolution and occurred simultaneously with the Egyptian and other Arab Spring protests. And I can guarantee you the Arab Spring process will include Libya. So Libya was, and we all know now what Libya is. Libya is basically a failed state with an open-air slave market. That's what Libya is. So this is something that the US has funded. I don't know whether they've funded the Yemeni one, but I'm pretty sure that when you read that article, there's some damning evidence there behind it, shall we say? And there are other articles too. For instance, I know people will always say, "Oh well, check your sources." Well, this was in the New York Times. U.S. groups help nurture Arab uprising. So America is behind this. I think you would have to be naive to not think that that America, the American government, and the UK government as well, were not behind the original uprisings and it just went wrong. Could very well be the case. So let's go back to the article. So this guy comes in, he promised elections and he didn't get them. And then on the 22nd of January 2015, after his mandate was extended for another year, in January 2014, and he remained in power after the expiration of his mandate. So he didn't have a mandate. They basically, at this point, they didn't have a leader. So the Houthis stepped up. On 22nd of January 2015, he was forced to resign by the Houthis. Subsequently, the Houthis and the supporters of Saleh seized the presidential palace and placed Hadi under house arrest. A month later, he escaped to his hometown of Aden, rescinded his resignation, denounced the Houthi takeover as unconstitutional, and the Houthis named a revolutionary committee to assume the powers of the presidency as well as the General People's Congress. So this guy has come in because of the Arab Spring had overthrown Saleh. He came in and said, I'm going to give you elections. We're going to have a presidential vote and we're going to have democracy. And that didn't happen, so they overthrew him. That's the way I'm reading this, reading the whole story as I see it. So you don't hear that in the press, do you? You don't hear any of that. They don't talk about that at all. They just say Houthi rebels propped up by Iran. That's all they say. That's as far as they go, because that's the narrative they want to give you. That's the narrative that they're being paid to push. Now, things took a turn last year because the original guy, Saleh, he was killed. If I remember right, he was killed by a sniper rifle, if I remember right. He was killed anyway, and they blamed it on the Houthis. And there are lots of back and forth as to actually exactly who is responsible for his death. But yeah, he died, and that really did ramp up the tensions between the countries. So this is the Yemeni revolution. That's the Arab Spring that started it all. Now here's the thing. Here's what. Now I've been doing this for a few months. I start getting a broader picture of the whole thing, and I start thinking, well, who benefits from all this? From all this, it's who benefits. You've got the Arab Spring, which many people are saying that has been started with US money and US government involvement. And in the case of Libya, that certainly was true. And they were one of the countries that were involved in this Arab Spring to start off with. So causing all this, who benefits? Well, I can tell you one group that benefits. Raytheon. Just took a selection here. I've got the top two. This is the ones that are most well known: Raytheon and Boeing. And you can see there. This is just 5 years ago. 5 years ago, this was back in 2013. Their share price was 67.41, and now it's at 211.36. So Raytheon has more than tripled in value in the last 5 years. Boeing, well, they were 102.49. Now they're 356. So they've increased in their value 3.5 times. 3.5. So that's a 350% increase in the value of those companies in 5 years. When bombs fall, they have to be replaced. And we all know America is using a lot of bombs at the moment, bombing 8 countries at the moment. Tell that to the average man in the street in Detroit, he won't believe you, but it's true. And I've shown a few of the export licenses that the UK have. I'm just going to show this. This is the UK arms export licenses. That's 17 billion in total over the last 3 years, of which much of that is obviously Saudi Arabia, and also Israel is up there as well. This is the US. Last year, $3.4 billion of weapons, and we all know the huge deal that Donald Trump struck with them recently. So he also exports to the United Kingdom, 698. There's Israel there, 515 million. And I'm pretty sure that 515 million won't include the $10 million they're getting in aid from the US government, of US public funded money. So what I found interesting though, when I was researching all this, and you won't be surprised to find this out once I actually get to the link. Here he is. The previous president of Yemen. Okay. So I started reading about this guy. In May 2015, Saleh openly allied with the Houthis. So he allied with the Houthis, have now took over the country, and then he was shot. Who's more likely to shoot him? Who's more likely to shoot him? Golden silence. I see what you've just written, and trust me, I'm getting there. Don't jump the gun. You are overlooking a big piece of the picture. I'm getting there. Trust me. This is going to be a longer stream. Now, what I want to talk about is this this uprising, the Arab Spring, because what started really this all off was this. Starting in late April, Saleh agreed to a Gulf Cooperation Council brokered deal, only to back away hours before the scheduled signing 3 times. After the 3rd time, the GCC declared it was suspending its efforts to mediate in Yemen. So this is in April, and the trouble started in January. There was a day of rage, Friday of anger, Friday of no return. It was quite violent over there. and 52 people were shot in one protest, resulting in massive defections and resignations from Saleh's government. So he wasn't a nice guy anyway. And this Gulf Cooperation Council, so he was trying to get him to bed with this Gulf Cooperation. So who are they? Oh, here we are: Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, Oman. That's who they are. Imagine my surprise when I was looking into this and I found at the root of it all, and the root of all these troubles starting, there was an oil deal that went bad. It is quite amazing. It really is. So let's just go back to the screen. Sorry, I'm just getting used to this. So this is how much the US is selling in weapons. Now, if you look at all these weapons being sold into the Middle East, into countries like the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia and Israel, you have to wonder, what weapons are they using over there? Are they using these weapons as some sort of, military testing ground? Is that what they're doing it for? Oh, wait, global research. The benefits of the Israeli occupation. Gaza is a weapons testing ground for military contractors. So here's one of the war crimes, by the way, that are committed in Yemen. I shall come back to that in a minute, actually, because I want to talk about that. I'm going to go back to the Guardian article. So we're bombing the crap out of these countries, and we're also using it as a weapons testing ground. Have there been any breaches of humanitarian law? Where do I start? The Saudi-led coalition has been repeatedly accused by rights groups of unlawful airstrikes on civilian targets, some of which they say may amount to war crimes. Riyadh insists it does all it can to avoid civilian casualties. Through a UN panel of experts that reviewed just 10 Saudi airstrikes reported in January, that even if the Saudi Arabia-led coalition has targeted legitimate military objectives, it is highly unlikely that the principles of international humanitarian law of proportionality and precautions in attack were respected. In other words, yes, there have been breaches of humanitarian law. Now, this picture here, it's actually not that graphic, so don't worry about it. So what I want to show you, this smoke here that you're seeing, a missile has already hit this. Now, what this was a funeral in Yemen. And it was a funeral for what intelligence had told them was, they told them the funeral was either for somebody who was a Houthi rebel or somebody who was, there were going to be Houthi rebels at this funeral. So Saudi Arabia bombed it. Now, that smoke, that was the first bombing. So what you're about to see, don't worry about that warning. It's not terrible. So this is the smoke from the first bomb hitting, and this is an hour later. Boom, and another one hits. That's a double tap. It's called a double tap. What they've done there is they've hit this funeral, even though knowing there's going to be hundreds of civilians there, and there was over 140 civilians were killed in that bombing. They've hit the wedding, and then an hour later, when all their friends have gone there to help these people who need help, and the medics are there helping people who need medical attention, another bomb hits. That's a war crime. That's called a double tap. And it happens every single time. It happens so often. It really does. And Saudi Arabia are not the only country who are guilty of that. As we know from Chelsea Manning, the United States government employs those tactics as well. So with regards to the Guardian article saying, have there been breaches of humanitarian law? You bet your ass there has. Now, this is one of the reasons why I don't like the Guardian, because the Guardian should have put all this in. Is the UK complicit? Well, I've showed you how many weapons we're selling to Saudi Arabia. What about access to aid? Saudi Arabia imposed a blockade on Yemen's air, sea and land borders in November 2017. In December, it said it was lifting the blockade of Hodeidah. Now, as we know, that's probably going to start again. Now, this is interesting. Does Saudi military action in defense of Hadi have UN backing? The UN recognises the government of Hadi, which is currently in exile in Riyadh, but support for the UK-US position at the UN is fraying. At the end of February, Russia vetoed a UK draft resolution then included a condemnation of Iran for violating the UN arms embargo. And this is what it all comes down to. It's all global posturing. It's all, no, we're going to veto that. So in February, Russia vetoed a UK draft. And obviously, just recently, the US have vetoed a UN resolution offering protections for Palestinians. I'm about to drop a video on that. I'll probably be dropping tomorrow. So basically, these people, they're not going to sort it out. The United Nations are not going to sort it out. There is no end in sight for this. They're using it as a military testing ground. Now, I'm not going to go into this too much in depth and much further. Maybe I will do maybe when I'll edit this video, I'll put other things in. But why are we over there? Why are we over there? They're saying that they say the reason that we're doing it is because Iran are supplying the Houthis. Well, you know, if that's the way of thinking, and Saudi Arabia are bombing Yemen because they're saying it's Iranian influence, then why didn't they bomb these rebels that were in Syria that were funded by Americans? Oh, wait, that's it. Saudi Arabians funded them as well. It's a double standard. You know, these rebels are in there and Iran are backing them. Oh, well, your rebels are in Syria right now and you're backing them. So, you know, who? If they're guilty of a crime, then so are you. And that the UK and the US are backing them. And this is wrong. It's wrong. And the reason I brought up the media to begin with at the beginning of this stream, the reason I brought up the media is because it's their job to use this. It's their job. If they really wanted to hammer Donald Trump, this is what they could use. They could use a story like this and it would cripple his writings, because the majority of Americans are anti-war. It's true. Look at this. This is from a national, from a Committee for Responsible Foreign Policy survey. And it says, the headline findings show, among other things, that 86.4% of those surveyed feel that American military should only be used as a last resort, while 57% feel that the US military aid to foreign countries is counterproductive. So if the media actually hammered on this, it would affect Donald Trump's ratings, which just goes to show how disingenuous the media are in the US and the UK as well. Because if they hammered on this point, it would cause real problems for the government. They would have to back down. They would lose serious amounts of support. You know, Trump definitely would go down at least 5 points in my imagination. And obviously, let me just find there's some good articles that I wrote here. I'm not going to actually share them. There was this, you know, how the media shapes public opinion of war. And you'll all remember this photo. I'm not going to leave that up because it's horrific. That was just after the guy got shot in Vietnam. And that video of the guy getting shot in Vietnam by a Vietnamese general, that caused so much upset. It caused nationwide riots and anti-war movement in the US. So if the media actually attacked Trump on this, his ratings would go down. And one of the reasons why I used Puerto Rico at the beginning as an example to Roseanne, if they attacked him on Puerto Rico and his response to Puerto Rico, and the fact that they're saying there were only 64 deaths in Puerto Rico where there were nearly 5,000. Look at what happened to George Bush. Do you remember Katrina? Katrina was August 2005, if I remember right, which was about here. Look how his ratings tanked off. Tanked 15 points in about 6 weeks after Katrina. If they did the same thing with Donald Trump, I argue that the same thing would happen and he would lose massive amounts of support. But they don't do it. They don't do it. And the reason they don't do it is because they're complicit in it. They're part of the mechanism that is actually showing you propaganda. That's all they do. It's propaganda. It's in support of the military-industrial complex, which is basically what America, its economy is built on now. And it's sensationalizing anything trivial like Roseanne or like Samantha Bee, exposing that as the big stories instead of what really is important. And I wanted to cover that in this live stream because I don't think Yemen and what's going on in Yemen at the moment gets enough press. I really don't. Here's one. It's from the BBC. I mean, this was, I talk about double taps. There was a double tap. That one was a funeral that I showed you. This one was a wedding. I think this was about 6 weeks ago. It says kills 20 there. I'm pretty sure that went up to over 50. And the bride was murdered. And obviously, I talked about it being a weapons testing ground. We've all seen these pictures in Gaza. That's tear gas that's being ejected from drones that you're seeing there. Oh, wait, Israel security forces are training American cops despite history of rights abuses. Okay. I'm sorry if this stream is depressing, America, but if you think your police are bad now, the IDF are training them. Just jump into the comments. Hi, everybody. How's your back pain, Gordon? Lawrence, thank you very much for asking. I moved a fish tank the other day and tweaked my back again. So I'm back doing my yoga in the morning now. But I should do it every day, but I don't because I'm lazy. Excuse me. Drinking my coffee. Over 5,000 died in Puerto Rico, Marilyn says. The last I heard of 4,800, I think it was. It doesn't surprise me that over 5,000 people died. In Katrina, I think it was 1,800, was it? In Katrina, don't quote me on that, but I think it was around about the 2,000 mark. So it just goes to show this Puerto Rico, what happened in Puerto Rico, and the US is, the way the US has not just not helped, it's also raping the country at the moment for its capitalism. The Wall Street is buying up places left, right, and centre. It's just raping the wealth of Puerto Rico, and it wasn't that wealthy to begin with. Sounds like Arab Spring was the CIA psyop, says Sergey. Well, we know that US money was used in Libya, and the CIA were in Libya, so it's not too much of a stretch of the imagination if this was coordinated that, you know, they were involved in Yemen in some way. So this has just jumped on me now. Okay, go on silence. But if mainstream media criticise Trump on real policies, then they lose all their income from death corporations that sponsor so many programs on CNN and MSNBC. Yeah, exactly. There's a brilliant video on YouTube. I won't show it, but there's an excellent video. You can find it. Just type in MSNBC Raytheon commercials. Somebody has clipped together Raytheon commercials and sandwiched in between Brian Williams quoting Cohen, saying, "I'm blinded by the beauty of our weapons." It's really excellent. It's only a couple of minutes long. It's an excellent video. But yeah, it's true. You know, why do Raytheon and Boeing advertise on MSNBC? You know, are general members of the public in the market for 747s and Tomahawk missiles? Are they? Of course not. They're buying a silence. Gabriel Acari, Stormy Daniels. There's Stormy Daniels. There's a video I'll never do. Weddings and funerals, yes, Sergey. Especially weddings and funerals, because weddings and funerals are where, you know, prominent members of Houthi show up. So that's why they're targeting weddings and funerals. And remember, they're getting this information from the likes. I can't say for sure that it was America and the US that gave them the information to bomb the funeral, for instance. I know the UK have denied it, have denied that they provided any intelligence for that, but that's what they do. And, you know, these are tactics that are used widely. Gabal Akabi, Iran changed currency. War is coming, and Israel and the US will attack with a false flag as usual. Iran changed their currency. That was the final nail in the coffin with regards to their country going to war. It's inevitable now. Every country that drops the petrodollar ends up with the US military on its doorstep. It has happened with regular clockwork in the last 20 years. It happened in Iraq. It happened in Libya. It happened in Syria. You know, it happened I think Venezuela as well. All of these countries, you know, the military-industrial complex of the CIA turn up as soon as you drop that dollar, because that's what's propping up the economy. Tia Wheeler, suddenly everything regarding the police makes more sense. Yes, when the IDF are training them, it does make sense. You know, look what the IDF do. Nick M, UK police is moving from Hendon to online courses. Hours are going to get much worse. They're doing online courses now to train as a policeman. They wouldn't do an online course to train you as a hairdresser, let alone a policeman. The Intercept just released video. This is Learned Hand. I tell you what. So I've read a few of your comments on my channel, mate. You are, tip my hat to you. You really are clued up on a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff. The Intercept just released video of police entering Chelsea Manning's home to check on her safely with guns drawn. Yes, I heard that. They turned up to do a wellness check on her with their guns. How are you doing? You all right? Gun pointed at the face. It's a good job she wasn't there. I mean, Chelsea Manning is tried in the military. I'm assuming she probably has a gun. I'm assuming that she's going to be quite jittery after going through 7 years of torture or whatever it was. So push it. Yeah, I don't really want to be running into somebody who's in the military trainers, possibly got a gun and PTSD problems and all that sort of thing that Chelsea's no doubt got. He could have been shot. Swiss voted to reject UBI, Universal Basic Income. Marilyn says that. I hear that the Norwegian test that they did on UBI is being wound down as well. Although there were some good numbers come out of that so far. I think the report won't be until next year, so we'll know more next year on UBI. I'm not sold on UBI. I'm not sold on a guaranteed job. I'm not sold on any of these things. I need to research them more, because otherwise I'm just making, you know, I'm just giving my opinion without backing it up with any facts. So hopefully you'll forgive me if I sit on the fence with that. I hope Chelsea Manning is okay, says Nikki. Me too. Chelsea is a hero as far as I'm concerned. Chelsea made one mistake. She trusted a guy she didn't know, and that wasn't Julian Assange. She trusted another guy, and that's how she got caught. Nobody has been caught leaking documents after sending them to WikiLeaks, as far as I'm aware. It's always when they leak it to the bloody Intercept or the Washington Post or something like that, they get caught. But she trusted somebody else, and he was the one who turned her in. Chelsea Manning is running for office in Maryland for Senate. Yes, she is, but Maryland, she's not well. You know, she's not well. I think she needs to take some time off and get herself fixed before she tries to fix the country, because fixing the country is going to be a big, big problem. Luca Clemente, don't back up, Gordon. You might knock over those skyscrapers. Looks pretty good, I think. Quite like that. That was, by the way, bought for me from a donation from donations through PayPal. It's actually you know, the audience bought that and the microphone, and I heard a few people saying that the sound is crystal clear. You guys bought it, not me. With your support, I'm reinvesting it into the channel, because I really enjoy doing this. Tommy Knocker, online course to be a cop, does it include a colour wheel? Good point. I just watched the Manning video. I haven't seen the Manning video yet, Venom. It looks pretty terrible there. Please kill my cousin. Police killed my cousin during a wellness check. He was unarmed and they knew it. When you've got the IDF training your police, bad things are going to happen. Bad things are going to happen. But yeah, that's all I wanted to talk about in this stream, was just Yemen. I have got another one that I want to talk about. another subject, but I'm going to leave that for another live stream. I might do it in a day or two. I'm really worried about the American government, not just the American government, but also the UK government, because, like I said at the beginning of this video, when you start actually looking at what they're doing and then you put it into a global context and you try to start thinking, okay, what are they trying to do here globally? What is their mission? It's worrying because I'm not going to give the game away because the video is going to drop in. I'll do it today or tomorrow or the day after. But it's a video that is going to be quite controversial, I think. MMC, we need to support Gordon and his work on Patreon. People, $1 is monthly, and a month is nothing. Yeah, if you can do $1 a month is something. That's a meal to somebody. If you're struggling, please don't. I'd rather you share my work if you're struggling. I'm struggling too, so you're just going to be, going from one hungry mouth to another. Love Chelsea Vilna. I do too. I think she's a hero. Gabriel Carvey, no, I haven't got a super chat function. I've got a PayPal link underneath, I think, or I should have. I'm not. The reason I haven't got a super chat, Gabriel and Laura and Lorems, is because I'm not yet. YouTube hasn't monetized my channel yet. You have to have monetization enabled on your channel to get the super chat function. And because they're saying that they said I had to reach the threshold by February. I did that on my third video. Something like 4,000 hours and 1,000 subscribers. I did that very quickly. And they said it will take about 2 weeks. I waited 2 weeks and then they said, oh, it will be the end of April. And at the end of April, when that came around, they said it was going to be the end of June. We're now in June. So I'm fully expecting an email from them or a notification from them to say, okay, it's now going to be the end of the year. So hopefully I will be monetized by the end of this month. If I get monetized by YouTube and they don't demonetize my videos too much, I'm pretty much set. I can do this full time. That's all I would need. With your help for the patrons and people who send me money via PayPal and the advertising through YouTube, which would probably be $200-300 a month. That would be it. That would be enough to pay the bills. And I could do this full time, but at the moment I can't do it full time, which is why I'm sporadic in dropping videos. I'll do 4 in one day and then nothing for the next 3 days. It's because I have to do work on the side to obviously keep the lights on. So that's why I haven't got super chat. Can you look into how the UN punished Eritrea over the alleged support of Al-Shabaab in Somalia? Of course, that was a blatant lie. I'm going to be honest with you, golden silence here. I'm not well up with that Eritrea. That hasn't entered my my feeling yet, but I've copied and pasted your question into a Word document, so I'll have a look at that and I'll come back to you. Thanks for that. Al-Shabaab in Somalia. Okay, I'll have a look at that. I didn't know that. They won't monetize you if you keep telling the truth. The Mycroft, I think you're right. I think if you notice my videos, whenever I do a video on Israel or Yemen, the views are very, very, very low. If I do one on the BBC being propaganda, I'll get 2,000, 3,000 views on the video. If I do one on Yemen, it will get 300. So it's obviously not appearing in the recommended section of YouTube. I think that's the way they demonetize it, because probably 40 or 50% of the traffic actually comes from that recommended videos. And whenever I do one about Yemen or Israel, it just doesn't get recommended to anybody. So that's maybe they will. I think they will monetize me. I think they will eventually. But I think a lot of people will get fed up before they do monetize them. I think that's one of the reasons why they did it. Mentoring 42, Gordon, you are fabulous. Mentoring 42, I love you already, mate. If somebody calls me fabulous, then I love you. Please keep up the great work. I will do. I promise. If you keep telling the truth. John Kiriakou reveals the machinations of the Obama pardon of Chelsea. John Kiriakou, for those of you who don't know, John Kiriakou is the only person in the CIA or the intelligence services in America who went to prison because of the torture. He's the only person who went to prison because of the torture. He didn't do the torturing. He was the one who blew the whistle on them torturing other people. That's who John Kiriakou is, and he went to prison because of that. The people who tortured others, no. One of them's head of the CIA now. John Kiriakou, he went to prison. Amazing that, isn't it? Shake my head, that's the double-edged sword, learned hand. Shake my head, that's the double-edged sword of the Second Amendment. You are given the right to guns, but at the same time, the police can kill you because you have a gun. America has a massive gun problem, but I think there's a section of the right that talks sensibly on guns. I've noticed this. There is a section of the right that talks. I'm not talking the people who are in the NRA or Alex Jones or any, but there is a section of the right that talks sensibly on guns. And I think if you can talk to those people and have a conversation with those people and come to some agreement as to what is the way forward, then I think you will do. But as it stands at the moment, it's just them versus us, and it's just kicking the can down the road. Nothing will happen. But there is a section there on the right that is actually responsible with guns. It's not as simple as I don't think, because of the amount of guns there's like 300 million guns now in America. 300 million. I mean, and the people who have the guns don't just have one gun. The people who have the guns have like 17 guns or 7 guns or 8 guns. So there's a lot of guns out there, and that's a massive problem. People will, even if you stop selling guns altogether, you're still going to have a lot of people in the country who are poor, who are uneducated, who are mentally ill, and a lot of guns. When you've got those two things, that's a recipe for gun violence. It's just a recipe. The poor, what is it, 43% haven't got $400 in the bank, and 60% can't afford a $1,000 emergency. And obviously, the way you have a for-profit healthcare system means that many people with mental health issues are just ignored. They're just ignored. And when you've got that problem, and you've got a country with that amount of guns as well, is it any surprise that there are school shootings every other day? It's I can't see any solution there to the gun problem other than, okay, fix the country first, fix your healthcare system first, at least take care of the mentally ill. Maybe that will cause a drop in the gun violence. And I think Medicare for all, because it incorporates mentally ill patients as well, such as people with schizophrenia who maybe are walking around who just need some lithium, or I don't know, whatever medication it is. But that, just that, I believe, would lower the gun violence problem in America. So when you do talk about the guns, make sure you mention the mental health problem, because there are a section of the right that talk about that, and they are right about it. So you don't just dismiss it out of hand. Actually say, right, okay, well, maybe this is why Medicare for all needs to come in, and you can push them on that as well. Am I a brummie? Martin Bennett. No, I'm not a brummie. I'm not far from there, but I'm not a brummie. Excuse me. People, Emma and Nikki, people just need to check your homepage and we can spread the word too. Thank you for that. Gabriel, keep up exposing the political corruption in the US and the UK. Yeah, that's what I want to concentrate on. I'm caught between the devil and the deep blue sea at the moment, because I'm trying to obviously build my audience. And to do that, I maybe should, somebody actually wrote me an email, because my plan for this is to just make longer documentary type videos exposing the hypocrisy and war and the bias in the media. But obviously, I'm not going to get as many views doing that. And while I'm building my channel, somebody said it might be a good thing for me to do lots of smaller segments and get more videos out there. So that's what I'm trying to do at the moment. I will. Thanks very much, Gabriel. I'll keep trying to expose it, because while the BBC and the Guardian and all the other outlets over here, and the same in America with the cable news, you know, they're not doing a. We need a media revolution in both countries. We just do. We need a media revolution, and I can feel it bubbling up under the surface. One of the reasons why they're attacking people like Jimmy Dore right now and attacking his source, they're not attacking. They're not attacking what he says. They're not trying to argue with what he says or his stance on things. They're just trying to smear him because they can't argue with him on policy. So that CNN smear him and try and attack his attack his advertisers on YouTube, attack his money. The reason they're doing it is because they're losing viewers left, right, and centre. You know, the average age of the CNN viewer is 68. As people die, young people come forward, and I think the one good thing about Trump being elected is people have stood up now. People have started to realise that Trump isn't the problem; he's a symptom of the problem. I heard a great expression earlier. Everything isn't wrong because of Trump. You got Trump because everything is wrong. That's, and I think people stood up, and I've started standing up and saying it. There are lots of people that still don't. Hillary Clinton supporters, for one. They don't know what she stands for, and they don't know why we think she's so evil. But I do feel like, there is a media revolution. Venom, thanks, Gordon. You're the best. Thank you very much. Tommy Knocker, rename your Yemen video to Fluffy Bunnies. Then I'll get delisted on YouTube because I know it's a joke, but if you put Fluffy Bunnies in it's a story about Yemen, they'll take your video down and give you a strike because it's intentionally misleading. Digital Tony, Gordon, Tuesday, just found you as I'm leaving for work, and Sunday going to be around. You know what, mate? The stream will be up. The stream will be up. I'll leave it up on the channel so you can watch it at your heart's content. I'm going to start doing live more often now. I probably will settle on a regular date at some stage, but at the moment, Sunday's no good for me. It's just no good for me Sunday night. I don't like it. Although I do like the live videos. Nikki, there's a woman in the UK in prison for blowing the whistle on a paedophile ring operating when she was in a children's home. Her name is Melanie Shaw. Horrible. Horrible, horrible. What do the reasonable Republicans say about guns? The reasonable Republicans say about guns is, this is your Marilyn's question. What they do is they say, yeah, okay, we can have, more stringent background checks. However, there is a mental health problem, and that is driving the gun crime up. And and that is true. What they're saying there is true. It's not okay. Yes, okay, they might be deflecting and they might be being defensive about their precious guns, but you can work with people like that. The vast majority of NRA members want gun reform and want sensible background checks. That's NRA members. So, and that's Republicans as well. Vast majority of Republicans, majority of independents, they all want it. The reason it hasn't happened is because of money, as we know. It's because of money in politics. It's because the NRA have basically bought all the politicians. You've got a situation at the moment where when there's a school shooting in America, sales of guns go up because you've got the likes of Alex Jones saying they're coming for our guns, people. And then more guns get sold. It's totally backwards. I don't think you can compare UK and US in terms of gun control rights. No, you can't. You're right, Gordon. No, you can't. You can't. Simply because, we don't have a good problem in the UK, and in America they do. And the reason is because you've got lots of guns and we haven't. It's that simple. It's just skipped on me again, guys. Sorry about that. Take the guns off the police, that would reduce gun deaths. It would increase police deaths as well. I will say that, the Mycroft. I'm not sure about that, even though they are being trained by the IDF. I don't want to see policemen get killed. The Second Amendment was written when they had militias with muskets and dragoon pistols. Byron Raver. That's yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. There's a bit in the Second Amendment It says a well-regulated militia. Well-regulated. That's the two words. Don't forget, mentally ill people are more likely to harm themselves than others. Nikki, you that's an absolutely great point. My friend was mentally ill and he killed himself with a gun, so I know exactly what you mean. Remember, agree, fix the healthcare, fix the schools, fix the economy, and then see how many desperate acts there are. Loems, that's the way I've started to think about the gun issue now in America. I don't think you can challenge the gun issue head on because you're going to get so much friction from the NRA and from the Republicans who were bought by them. If you attack them on the healthcare issue and take the side on that way, you're getting the best of both worlds because not only will people see, oh, wait a minute, hold on, the gun crimes come down, but you've also got healthcare as a guaranteed right as well. Bernie Sanders was on Bill Maher the other night. I rarely will suggest anybody talk about or go and watch Bill Maher, but just go and watch that. Don't watch the rest of the crap, but that interview he did right at the beginning with Bill Maher was just outstanding. It really was. You could certainly see why he's the most popular politician in America right now. In fact, I went round my mum's on Sunday last week, I think it was, and when I went round there, she had NBC on. She watches the news. And Chuck Todd was interviewing Bernie Sanders, and Chuck Todd asked him, he said, this was the question, let me get the question right. The question was, has Congress and the Senate done enough on healthcare? That was his hard question. Bernie Sanders went, no, of course not, and really shouted at him. Stupid question. He didn't say that, but you can see that was. And my mom actually watched that for a few minutes, and she said, who's that guy? I said, it's Bernie Sanders, the most popular politician in America. She says, you can certainly see why he's the most popular politician. She says, I like him very much. I said, he's the guy Hillary cheated. She didn't know. She didn't know who. Amazing. And obviously she watches the news all the time. She's an older person who watches the news. They don't know what's going on. They just don't. Go on, silence. You wouldn't believe me how many people are homeless and working professional. You wouldn't believe me how many people are homeless and working professional. It's downright pathetic when college instructors are living out their cars in Silicon Valley. I bet you I would believe you. I bet you I would. People, they keep giving the jobs. They keep saying, oh, look how many jobs have been made and unemployment's so low. It's like, what are those jobs? What are they? They do it in the UK all the time. What majority of those jobs are 0 hours or working for Uber or Lyft or one of these other places that pays you pittance, and many people actually end up owing more money than actually they got in, it's the gig economy and it's driven wages through the floor. So that doesn't tell the whole picture at all. Never. The jobs figures don't tell the whole picture at all. And even when they are employed, they're still struggling to make ends meet. Venom, I was all for gun rights before I spent 6 years as a manager at a gun store. Well, boy, did that change my mind. You just can't imagine the types who have so many guns legally. Well, I think with the guy who shot up Vegas, didn't he bought 30-something guns? Incredible. Hey, Gordon, this is Chris Foster. Hey, thanks for your question. Hey, Gordon, do you think the current system would work if you remove the actual numbers? Same system, but not profit-driven. I don't understand which system you're talking about, Chris. I might have missed a previous statement. Come back to that. If you can tell me which system it is, I'm sure I'll get to it. It's just jumped on me again. Just missed a load of questions. Sorry about that. It's just jumped on me again. Carl and St. Clair harming the teachers. That's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. Harming the teachers. You just know you're going to end up with teachers getting shot by kids during an argument if they harm the teachers. You just know it. I think it happened a week after Trump actually suggested it. A Swiss banker said that Bernie would not pass since he would put them in jail. Bernie would not pass. I don't know, pass what. The establishment don't want a socialist in the White House or Downing Street. Barbara Raver. Yep. This is why they don't debate Jeremy Corbyn on his policies, and this is why they don't debate Bernie Sanders on his policies. They smear him because they have no attack for the policies. It's just, the only attack they've got is just smearing it as communism or lefty or or socialism. It's just a smear. What Bernie and Corbyn actually represent is democratic socialism. It is different. It is different. There is a difference. And if they got on, obviously a lot of powerful people would be out of money. I'm not sure with Bernie. To be honest, I'm not sure with Bernie. Bernie would be less of a threat to the establishment in America than Jeremy Corbyn would be to the establishment over here, just simply because Jeremy Corbyn is way further left than Bernie Sanders. Way further left. But Bernie's great. Martin Bennett, if Bernie isn't president in a couple of years, it will be because of the DNC. I agree. Although I do think it's getting to the stage now where Bernie is so popular, I think even if the DNC do rig it, which they will, he will still win. I'm starting to realise, okay, I know the DNC are going to try and rig it. They're already trying to rig it with, they said they're going to remain impartial, and they're coming out in support of candidates left, right, and centre. I see, they've come out in support of Cuomo against Cynthia Nixon. It's just the DNC. I mean, they've been rigging their own elections since the 40s, so they're not going to change. But if Bernie runs, I think he wins. Simple as that. I really do. I can't see anybody beating him. Not on the Democratic side. The only person who would have a chance would be maybe Kamala Harris. Maybe. I can't think of any other Democrat that would run in close. Certainly not Elizabeth Warren. Obviously, Cory Booker, no chance, and Joe Biden, no chance. Kamala Harris would be his strongest opposition, and if the DNC rig it, then she's got a chance. But I do think he's so far ahead now. He's so popular that I think whoever they put up, he's going to beat, and he will definitely beat Trump in 2020. I think, stay well, stay alive, Bernie. Just stay alive. Okay, it's just jumped on me again. I'm down at the bottom now. Tommy Knocker, the next thing the NRA will suggest is to arm the other students just to offset the one bad child. You're right. The NRA's solution to every problem is more guns. That's what they say. Joe Biden, yeah, Joe Biden will run. I think Joe Biden's going to run Maryland. He's giving all the signs off that he's going to run. Byron over Chelsea Clinton. I hope you don't mean Chelsea Clinton's going to run. That would be funny. Lawrence Taylor, Kamala Harris left the taste of vomit in my mouth. I wouldn't go that far, but so the reason Kamala Harris is not going to, she'll be the strongest contender for sure, I think, but no progressive will ever forgive her for what she did with One West Bank and Steve Mnuchin. No progressive will. Her office, I can't remember whether her office said to her when she was district attorney, we've investigated One West Bank a little bit, and I can't remember whether they said that it was 100 instances or 1,000 instances of fraud that they'd found. I think it was 1,000, to be honest, although don't quote me on that. And they said if we were to really investigate, we will find more. This is a corrupt, company. And she said, no, drop it. She told her staff to drop any investigation into One West Bank. And then the next election cycle, when she was up for re-election, Steve Mnuchin actually donated $3,000 to her campaign, the only Democratic campaign he has, I think, ever donated to, if I'm right. So with regards to Kamala Harris, whoever runs against her has got that weapon to pull out and just smack her over the head with. She's not going to come back from that, especially if it was done on a debate stage. Thoughts on Tulsi Gabbard, the Mycroft. Here's my thoughts on Tulsi Gabbard. I practically love her. Is the truth. I think she's been taken out of context on a few things. and I think she said a few things, not realising the repercussions of them. I think there was something to do with the Indian Prime Minister. I believe she came out in support of, is it Modi? That was a bit dodgy. But with regards to her stance with regime change wars, with regards to, she's put bills forward for paper ballots, although somebody did make a big deal over that it's not as good as it sounds. It's like, well, at least she's doing something, you know, nobody else is. And she put forward the Stop Arming Terrorists Act. I mean, that's a big step. So with regards to the issues, Tulsi Gabbard's right on pretty much everyone. And nobody's perfect, and I'm not saying that she's perfect, but I do love her. I think she's wonderful. Covert White Rabbit. Kamala Harris is a criminal who left other white-collar criminals walk. Totally agree. They're going to push Kirsten Gillibrand. Yeah, Kirsten Gillibrand. You're right there, Covert White Rabbit. They are. And she's a faux progressive. She's a fake progressive. Everything that she says, it's all changed in the last 2 years. If you go back 6, 8 years, and it's okay for people to change their opinions on things, that's fine. But she just changes with the wind. And all she's trying to do, in my opinion, is just curry favour and keep getting elected. That's all she's trying to do. She doesn't actually stand for anything as a matter of principle, even when it's unpopular. And that's how you can tell whether a politician has got integrity or not. And she doesn't. Bernie Sanders does. Bernie Sanders was openly for gay marriage, I think back in the 90s. Might have been even further back then. And it was extremely unpopular then. Hillary Clinton, she changed her mind 2013, was it? Barack Obama 2012, just as the majority of Americans were in favour of gay marriage. All of a sudden, Obama flips. What a surprise! Whereas people like Bernie Sanders were on the right side of history going back. Kirsten Gillibrand just isn't. That's the way I read into it. Low M's. I don't think Biden will win. He's tied to Obama, and Obama has lost some of his shine yet. Absolutely. He's going to get a vote of people who just remember Biden from memes, funny memes with Obama, and think that Obama, the sun shines out of his arse. It just doesn't. The more I've looked into this, and the more politically aware I've been over the last 2 or 3 years, the more astounded I am at how Obama is portrayed in the media compared to what he actually did. Because when you actually analyze what he did and his policies, there's a lot of bad there and not much good. And that's the truth. People can spin it and say, oh, well, look what he did for the economy. Yeah, okay, look what he did for the economy. Look at what he did to the economy. Largest transfer in wealth in history. In history. Largest transfer in wealth. All going up to the top 1%. Mark Blythe has this wonderful expression. I think he got it from somewhere else. And that what Obama did to bail the country out was akin to saying, right, I want to fill my kettle with water. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a high pressure hose. I'm going to shove it through the letterbox. I'm going to turn it on full and hope that some of that water gets into that kettle. That is the equivalent of what Obama did. And obviously the water that came through that letterbox, it was all swallowed up by Wall Street and the top 1-2%. They're the ones who made out by bandits. I've shown you the graph of Raytheon, of Boeing. This is what the economy is built on. This is what is keeping the economy booming. It's the share prices. Because who has shares? The rich people. Do you have shares in Raytheon or Boeing or anything? No. Unless you've got, I think a 401k is the only way most people would actually even get involved in the stock market at all. So it's not the fact that the people in the country are getting wealthier. It's just the stock market is. And as we know, when you buy 70 shares of stock in Raytheon, that doesn't give you 70 votes. That gives you 70 shares of something that might go up or down. It doesn't mean you've got any decision-making process in that company at all. It just doesn't. And if Raytheon collapses, you're worth nothing. It's a sham. It is the stock market. Lee Camp did a brilliant video on it a couple of weeks ago. Go on silence. Please don't underestimate the stupidity of Californians. I don't, mate. I've spent time in California. It's just the same as the UK. There are stupid people all over the place. They really are. Stupid people all over the place. I had 2 Californians ask me within 24 hours, I think. I had 2 Californians ask me while I was over there, "So, is Europe in the UK?" That's what they asked me. 2 people, 2 separate people. I do hope Alison Hartson gets in today. I really do. I hope she gets into the top 2, but I've got a feeling she's gonna come 4th or something. Just looking down here for. Oh, it's just skipped on me again. Okay. I've been going about an hour and 20 minutes. I'm going to make these more regular there. So thanks to everybody who joined me. It's great to speak to you all. I really like these live streams. I really do, and interacting with the audience as well. And it's getting to the stage where I think I can do reports pretty well on the fly and without recording them. So I might go down there going live more often. The Mycroft, Obama is the one that really shattered my view of politics, made me realise that a smiling orator can get away with anything. You're absolutely right. He was charismatic, and he was handsome, and he was poised, and he was enigmatic. He was all of those things, but he was also a corporate whore who sold the country out to the military industrial complex and big pharma. You know, never forget that. Never forget that. Thank you, Garden. Okay, we're down at the bottom. Thanks very much, guys. Thanks for joining me. I hope the video on Yemen was worthwhile you tuning in. It was. It's something that's really dear to my heart. I am vehemently anti-war and pro-peace. I say you should be pro-peace rather than anti-something. So I'm trying to say pro-peace. And I'm going to be concentrating a lot on this, and as well as the bias in the media. We've got to show these media. We've got to show the people who watch the media and believe the media just how fake it is. When Trump says fake news, he's right. He's right. But that doesn't necessarily mean, just because he's attacking something, that doesn't mean that he's wrong. He is right. And I like it when he attacks the media. I wish people would stop standing up for the media when they haven't got a leg to stand on. Thanks very much, guys. And I'm going to leave this here. Until next time, as always, peace and take care.